Today we will continue working on main idea and details by finishing the passage from yesterday and then starting a new one about sloth. Yesterday, your assignment was to find the main idea of the third paragraph, which you did, and it was that sloths are home to other plants and creatures. So I've highlighted all three of the main ideas of each passage so far, and all we have left is the last one. So number 4 says, what is the main idea of the last paragraph? Okay, and I'm going to circle my last paragraph, and I'm going to read my answer choices. Sloths the size of elephants once lived on Earth. Today, sloths live in the tropical forests of Central and South America. C, a sloth can stick its tongue out 12 inches. Or D, it would be sad if sloths became extinct. All right, so now I'm going to go back to the paragraph. Giant sloths the size of elephants once lived in many places on Earth. So today, sloths can be found in the tropical rainforests of Central and South America. They eat leaves and berries. A sloth can stick its tongue out 12 inches. Maybe they developed this skill so they wouldn't have to move to reach the tasty leaves and berries around their resting spot. Their main enemies are jaguars, eagles, and snakes. Many tropical forests are disappearing, along with the sloths that live there. It would be sad if these fascinating little animals became extinct. When I go back to the paragraph and reflect on what I read, I noticed that sloths the size of elephants once lived in many places on Earth. That was really only mentioned one time. So I'm going to cross that one off. Today, sloths can be found in the tropical forests of Central and South America. They eat leaves and berries. A sloth can stick out its tongue 12 inches. And then it goes on to talk about the enemies and the forests are disappearing. And so because it started out with talking about where the sloths long ago, and then it ended up with today that they be sad if these become extinct, I'm going to go with choice D as the main idea of the 4th paragraph. In the lesson today, you will learn how to find the main idea of multiple paragraphs in a fiction text, and you guessed it, the text is about sloths. Benjamin sees a sloth. Benjamin's class was learning about unusual animals. Today they were going on a field trip to the zoo to see some of the animals they had learned about. Benjamin's favorite was the sloth. He had never seen one, but he had learned a lot about them and seen pictures of them. They were so cute. They had big round eyes and looked like they were wearing a mask. The sloths in all of the pictures looked like they were smiling. Benjamin remembered a story he had read about sloths. The story said that many sloths live in the tropical forests in the South American country of Bolivia. Santa Cruz, a large city in Bolivia, has many large parks with old and beautiful trees. Years ago, many sloths lived in these trees. People liked to come to the parks and look for the sloths. Even though there were many sloths in the parks, they were hard to see. Their fur was as green as the leaves of the trees they lived in. Benjamin wished he could have visited one of those parks. He was sure he would have been able to spot the sloths, even if they were hard to see. The story went on to say that there was a problem with the sloths in the parks. Even though sloths don't move very often and are very, very slow, they do not like to be bothered. And if they are bothered, their long, curved claws make very good weapons. Children in the parks of Santa Cruz and even some adults would poke at the sloths to try to get them to move. Some of these people got serious scratches and cuts from the sloths' sharp claws. The city decided to move the sloths out of the parks and back to the forests that were their natural home. Benjamin decided that had been a good idea. The sloths would be safer and so would the people. Benjamin's class arrived at the zoo, and they finally came to the section where the sloths lived. The sign said there were 2 sloths. It was a large area with many trees. Benjamin looked and looked, but he didn't see the sloths. He was very disappointed. Then his teacher said, "Look there," and pointed. And there was one of the sloths just 10 feet away from Benjamin, a little higher than his head. and it was even cuter in person than it was in the pictures. Now we're going to think about what is the main idea of each paragraph. So the first paragraph, because that's what we need to look at first, is this paragraph right here. Okay, the first paragraph, because here it is indented, and there's lots of blank space after smiling, so I know that's the first paragraph. Okay, now I'm going to go through and read the answer choices before I go back to the paragraph. Benjamin's class was learning about unusual animals. Okay, that's one choice for main idea. Benjamin's class was going on a field trip to the zoo. Benjamin had learned a lot about sloths. The sloths in all of the pictures looked like they were smiling. All right, so let's go back and read the paragraph. Benjamin's class was learning about unusual animals. Today they were going on a field trip to the zoo to see some of the animals they had learned about. Benjamin's favorite was the sloth. He had never seen one, but he had learned a lot about them. He had learned a lot about them and seen pictures of them. They were so cute. They had big round eyes and looked like they were wearing a mask. The sloths in all the pictures looked like they were smiling. And the first sentence here is choice A. Benjamin's class was learning about unusual animals. So when I think about this whole paragraph, the whole paragraph wasn't just about them going to the zoo. So I'm going to cross off choice B. Let's see. Benjamin had learned a lot about sloths. Well, it mentioned that he had learned about them. And the sloths in all the pictures looked like they were smiling. That is a detail in the passage, so I'm going to cross that one off. So my first choice, A, Benjamin's class was learning about unusual animals. And C, Benjamin had learned a lot about sloths. So let's see if we can figure out which one is the main idea. If I look at choice C again, Benjamin had learned a lot about sloths. This whole paragraph isn't about everything that he learned about sloths. So I think the best choice for the main idea is choice A. Benjamin's class was learning about unusual animals, and one of them happened to be the sloth, is what the paragraph is about. Next, we're going to look at the second question. What is the main idea of the second paragraph? All right, I highlighted our choice for the first paragraph. Now I need to find the second paragraph. And that one is right here. Okay, so my answer choices are: many sloths live in the tropical forests of Bolivia. Years ago, many sloths lived in the city parks of Santa Cruz. Choice C, people like to come to the parks and look for the sloths. And choice D, Benjamin wished he could have visited one of those parks. Now, I do remember hearing all of those in this paragraph, so let's see what the main idea would be. Benjamin remembered a story he had read about sloths. The story said that many sloths live in the tropical forests in the South American country of Bolivia. Santa Cruz is a large city in Bolivia and has many parks with old and beautiful trees. Years ago, many sloths lived in these trees. People liked to come to the parks and look for the sloths. Even though there were many sloths in the park, they were hard to see. Their fur was as green as the leaves of the trees they lived in. Benjamin wished he could have visited one of those parks. That's another one of our choices. He was sure he would have been able to spot the sloths even if they were hard to see. Answer choice A, many sloths live in the tropical forests of Bolivia. Okay, I don't think this whole paragraph was about the sloths and living in Bolivia. Okay, choice B, years ago many sloths lived in the city parks of Santa Cruz. Well, it did mention that, and that people like to come to the parks. So that's choice C. Is it all about people coming to the parks and how they look for them? I don't think that's correct. Benjamin wished he could have visited one of those parks. Well, that's just something right at the end of the paragraph, so I don't think that one is the main idea. I think the more specific main idea would be choice B. Years ago, many sloths lived in the city parks of Santa Cruz. Okay, so the reason I chose that one is because it talks a lot about the park in Santa Cruz, specifically Santa Cruz. That's why Bolivia is too big of an idea. And everything else in that paragraph goes with the sloths living in the parks of Santa Cruz. So my best choice for main idea would be years ago, many sloths lived in the parks of Santa Cruz. Your assignment today is to find the main idea of the third paragraph.